Well, we're going to make roasted tomato basil soup today, and the reason I like this soup is because there are few ingredients, and it tastes really good, and it's perfect in my lunch that I pack for work every day. So if I make a batch of this tomato soup on the weekend, I usually have lunches for at least 2, maybe 3 days. So it's, for me, that's just for me. If you were making this soup for your family, that would be a nice meal for a family, for dinner, to go with the dinner. So the ingredients, super easy. You need approximately 6 tomatoes, any variety. I've made this now with different varieties of tomatoes, and it all tastes really good. So baseball size, 6 baseball size tomatoes. I have 3 here because I already have a batch in the oven roasting, so I have just 3, but for what I consider one batch of a few lunches or part of a meal for a family dinner, you'll need 6 tomatoes. And if you have 7 or 8, you can put 7 or 8. Another reason I like this recipe is there's really no rules other than the ingredients and some of the ways of cooking. After that, it just, if you have a little extra onion, a little extra garlic, you can always add it, and it's not going to change the soup too much. You need 1 onion. So with your 6 tomatoes, you need 1 onion. Yellow, I've used yellow onion and I've used white onion. Again, about baseball size has worked well in this recipe. So your choice there. I imagine if you had red onion, you could use red onion as well. And a few cloves of garlic. If you like the taste of garlic, then you can go 4 or 5 cloves of garlic. And if you're you don't like garlic as much, you can use just a couple of cloves. Salt and pepper, olive oil, and just a little bit of chicken broth at the very end. So those are the ingredients for this roasted. Oh, and basil. I forgot the main ingredient here, one of the main ingredients. So this is basil, and this soup it's a great time to make this soup. So late summer, early fall. You can find basil pretty readily in any farmer's market. And you don't need this much. I picked a lot because I'm actually making 2 batches today. But you need, I'm gonna say, a good decent handful to go with, whatever I already described is the right amount. And again, the soup is great because if you had a little less basil, no problem. It's just, it'll still taste good. And if you had a little more, that would be fine too. But a good, decent sized couple handfuls of basil, and we'll talk a little bit more about how we prep that and get that ready. Okay, so the first step to roasted tomato basil soup is to prep your tomatoes. And so I'm just going to slice the top off and then quarter your baseball sized tomatoes. And you just get a sheet pan and just throw the tomatoes on the sheet pan, cut side up. So I'll just slice these. Again, the ingredients for one batch of this soup is approximately 6 of these, which I have going in the oven, roasting away right now. So I'm just going to make a half batch here. So cut side up. And you want the pieces to be about the same size. So, if you start with about the same size tomatoes and you quarter all of them, that's going to be, perfect for the roasting part of this. Okay, so I roast the garlic right along with the tomatoes, and that, gives it a really good subtle flavor. So if you're not liking garlic as much as other things, then, throwing it on the pan with the tomatoes and roasting it kind of smooths the flavor out, makes it more subtle. I just think it tastes really good. So you don't even need to peel these all the way. I just get kind of some of the main peel off. Because they roast in the oven, the peel will come right off at the end really easily. So I'm just going to smash a few cloves, and that's what releases the peel. Kind of take the palm of your hand and just kind of smash it down. And I like garlic, so for 6 tomatoes again, that proportion, I usually use 4 or 5 garlic cloves. And I know I have half a batch here, so I'll use 4. Okay, so that's the garlic. And then the final step to prep the tomatoes is to sprinkle the tomatoes and the garlic with a little bit of olive oil, a little bit of salt, and a little bit of pepper. And then they're going to go right in the oven. So I just do a drizzle. No real rhyme or reason to it other than just, trying to create a little olive oil there for the tomatoes to roast in. And then I just take a sprinkle of salt and sprinkle all the tomatoes. And then finally, I just get some pepper on them, and then they are ready to go in the oven. And I roast these for about 45 minutes, so I like to say just roast the heck out of them. You can't go wrong. The roasting brings out the flavor, make your kitchen smell really good. So I roast for about 45 minutes out of 400. Okay, so these are going in, and I'm going to take the batch out that I had before. And this is what your sheet pan of roasted tomatoes will look like. And these have been out in about 50 minutes. So again, if something comes up and you take a call or you need to do something, there's really no harm done to them. They just continue to roast and continue to smell really good. Okay, so once you get your tomatoes in the oven, they're going to roast for about 45 minutes. So in that time, you can prep your basil, and we're also going to prep the onion before the tomatoes come out. So I picked the basil earlier today from my herb garden. So if you didn't have an herb garden, no problem. Basil sold, especially this time of year, late September, pretty much from August through late September, 1st of October, until the first real frost. You can find basil really easily at farmers markets. And then also grocery stores sell basil. Usually it comes in that plastic box or case in the herb section. So, either, any choice or any, way to get the basil, you'll get it, and then you have to clean it. And the way I clean mine is I just take sections of the stem and put it in my salad spinner, get the basil in, rinse it off, and then just give it a whirl in the spinner just to dry it off. Take some of the water off. And that just gets especially for my herb garden, sometimes some of the soil will kick up and stay on the leaves, so that just gets all of that off. And then the last part of prepping this, pretty easy. You just want to remove the leaves from the stem. So you just pick off the leaves. And if there are leaves that are, darkened or they're bruised at all, and you just, not sure how that's going to work out in the flavor, then you can just, throw it in the sink for your compost or for the garbage. So that's it. That's prepping the basil. I'll get this ready, and then we're going to move on to getting the onion ready. So the next step after the basil's prepped is to get the onion started. Actually, I'm going to get my pan nice and hot here. And I'm going to saute the onion in a little bit of olive oil, and just enough to cover the pan. So we'll get that warmed up. And the sauteing of the onion brings out the flavor of the onion. So I imagine you could put the onion into the blender raw, and that might change the flavor a little, and it might be okay. But I think the little bit of saute work just caramelizes the onion a little and gives it a nice flavor. So we're pulverizing all of the soup ingredients in the blender at the end. So, there's, nothing specific about the size of the onion. Just want to chop it so that the heat touches as much as the onion and creates that caramelization. So 1 onion, baseball size, for 1 batch of this soup. And I've, added some today for purposes of testing. I have a big pan of tomatoes there, so I'm going to actually use 1.5 onions. So I'll just use a half here. Actually this for me looks like it could be on its way south. I don't know if there's enough to recover here. Looks like this piece is okay. I don't like to take chances when things look like they're on their way south, so just better to put it in the compost, in my opinion, if I'm unsure. So just a little salt and pepper. Again, keep the heat nice and high, get that onion browning. And after 10 minutes or so max, maybe 7-8 minutes, this onion will be starting to brown already, and that's the color you want, and that's what brings out the flavor in the onion. So now we're ready to put everything together in the blender, and if you had a food processor, you could also finish this in your food processor, no problem. I'm just getting the husks off the garlic. So if you don't completely peel the garlic before, they come right off at the end of the roasting process. So we have our tomatoes, and I'm just going to use some tongs to get these into the blender. And we're going to get our onion in, and then finally the basil, and just a little chicken broth, and we're going to just pulse it for a little bit, and that's how the soup comes together. If you wanted to, at the very end, I have a pan ready to go here. From the blender, I mean, everything's warm, but you could heat it up again if you were gonna eat this right away for lunch or for dinner at night, with a salad, or to go with some grilled meat. That would be really, really good, actually. If you had some grilled meat in this side of soup, it would be just so healthy and really delicious. But anyway, so you can put it in the pan at the very end, and then just finish it off with a little milk, little cream, sometimes even butter, a little pat of butter, just to kind of richen it at the end. That would work really well. Finish it off. And if you didn't want to do that, if you just wanted to get this into containers for lunches, which is sometimes what I do when I'm cooking on a Sunday, I'll just get my containers ready and fill the containers, then I wouldn't take this step to put it into the pan. This can go right into your containers to save for the week if you're going to do this for lunches or for dinner later in the week. We're just getting our sauteed onion in, and you know it's done when it starts to brown, and if you can see that color, you know it's onion, but it's definitely brown on the sides, bringing out all that really nice flavor. There's quite a bit of liquid from tomatoes, and I'm just kind of paying attention to that because you only had chicken broth just to create that soup consistency. So sometimes I start and just whir it around, see how we're doing, if it's that soup consistency that I want. And if not, if it's a little thick, I'll add a little chicken broth, box broth. And if it's fine as is, then I won't. So it's just, the chicken broth's just there in case your tomatoes weren't as juicy as some. And I'm gonna put this into pulse mode and just pulse, and the blender, the food processor will do that work. Pulling it in, and I had a little more basil here. And it is a little thick for me, so I'm just gonna add a little bit of chicken broth, not much, not even a quarter of a cup there. Okay, and that's it. That's the soup. You could heat it through now, although everything's pretty warm. And you see here the consistency. You can go right into the pan. Again, finishing it off with a little milk, or not, just depending on what you had time for. And that's the dish, roasted tomato basil soup. Good for lunches, good for a dinner. And I'm thinking this would be great tonight with some grilled meat.
What a treat, Kristen's soup, tomato soup.
Good, healthy lunch.
It's so fresh. You can taste the tomatoes, the basil. With that much basil, I'm surprised. I thought it would be overwhelming, but it's really, really good.
Maya would like a bowl too.
Very good.